Welcome back to the Peace, Power, and Purpose podcast, where we bring real testimonies of faith, resilience, and brotherhood. Like and subscribe and never miss an episode. This is the Peace, Power, and Purpose podcast, and I'm your host, Steve. Today is a special episode recorded on a Saturday, which is kind of unconventional, but I have a special guest with me today, Anthony Blubello. He is the owner of Prometheus Strength and Conditioning. I think I got that name right. And he's going to come on today and he's going to share his testimony. We're going to talk about his job. He's got one of the coolest jobs if you're in the fitness industry, in my opinion. We're also going to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ, and we're going to help men out there that are working on their mental health. While you're watching, click the bell. Be sure to like and subscribe to the Peace, Power, and Purpose podcast on YouTube and on Spotify. I drop new episodes every Wednesday and every Thursday. Anthony, thank you for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's
Of
a
course.
pleasure to be on here.
Second time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Dude,
Yeah.
technology, man, it'll fail you. So thank you for being flexible and having me in on a Saturday.
Yeah, of
Working on the
course.
weekends, bro.
Hey, it's all good, man. I appreciate you. And before we get too carried away, Anthony and I met through a mutual friend who owns SDSC right here, and then on the backdrop behind Ant there, Xander. We appreciate you, man. Thanks for making this connection, dude, and wish you all the best in 26.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, that podcast that you had with Sander on there too. It was a cool way that I think God was working in your show, man. That you meant basically I think Xander mentioned something about struggling with forgiveness or coming to the realization of forgiveness. And I was driving into work that day having a conversation with another friend, basically saying something I was grappling with. A friend or basically a someone who knew me and my wife, kind of like hurt my wife and like emotionally, I should say, like did something that upset her. So it made me really upset. And I know you said before, like when we mess up, we blame ourselves a lot. And then usually we're kind of like a number one enemy. I definitely related to that in your episode. But the thing that I think that was even harder was trying to forgive someone who had hurt loved ones. So I was telling him about how, I'm having a really hard time forgiving him. Um, basically, yeah, that, um, that podcast that you did with Xander, when you started mentioning that, it was one of those like epiphany moments, like, ah, dang it. Honestly, it wasn't really something I wanted to hear in the moment either. Cause I was like, I want to like bear my heels down and like be in my anger and be in my frustration. And I heard, my buddy say basically like, forgiveness isn't for them, it's for you. And then when, I heard Xander kind of like repeat that literally a couple moments later, I was like, dang it. All right, God, I I guess that's what I got to do. So yeah, man, I appreciate how your podcast works into people's lives, man. And I hope, you can continue to do that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to forgive those that have hurt you, and like they say in the good book, forgive your enemies. It's tough, man, but I
Gotcha.
think it's part
Gotcha.
of being a Christian, and just learning how to still love people even though they've wronged you, and forgive them, even though you don't have to keep them necessarily in your circle all the time, but you do need to move on, and for yourself, because you don't want to carry
Exactly.
around that hatred and that anger with you. Well, man, let's kind of start from the beginning. Like, where did you grow up, and what did childhood look like for you?
Yeah, man. I'll be, first to say definitely my childhood is, I've heard some of the stories on your podcast and definitely mine was an easy road compared to most. I don't have a lot of complaints about, where I grew up was a safe, loving environment. Was raised in the Catholic Church, but and I know people have opinions on Catholic Church or whatever, but I will say I grew to know the Bible, grew to know Christ early. So I have a lot to be thankful for there. One thing I did, I guess that kind of like started, some of the stuff that we were talking about though when I was a kid was I was really obese. So I was 240 in the seventh grade. And I remember like this one moment, I was like picked on and stuff throughout that time, but there was this one moment particular where I was trying to talk to a girl in the recess yard, and her friend like yells from across the yard, and she's like, Rachel, why are you talking to the fat kid? And she like was like, and then she got like awkward and like turned away. And then I felt obviously like really small. So in that moment, I was just feeling this like insignificance, like my value I felt like was being put into being the quote unquote fat kid. And I felt like, all right, I need to change something. So, started kind of working out. Um, I didn't really know anything about working out at the time. I just like would watch Rocky movies and, being from Philadelphia, that was, he's like the hero of the city. So,
Mhm.
did some push ups and sit ups and ran circles in my basement because I was too embarrassed to run outside. Got super strict on my like food, like the food I consumed. Like if butter touched my finger, I thought like it was penetrating my system. I thought it was like getting into my blood. Oh, I stopped eating all fast food, tuna, like a can of tuna on wheat bread, every day, and with an apple, and I think, just a bottle of water. It was a half a cup of oatmeal. Later, it got to like a half cup of oatmeal with protein powder, like a shake, but,
Wow.
um, it was, yeah, just that for breakfast, and then dinner was, like, kinda whatever my mom would make, but I started getting, like, more and more strict on even, like, what I would eat there, like, taking the bread off of chicken, taking the sauce off of salmon, doing the George Foreman grill and just cooking every little ounce of fat out of the thing until it was basically a hockey puck. So, yeah, it was really, what do you call it? Disordered eating habits,
Mm.
I would say. Like, I wouldn't say I had a full on, I mean, maybe, I don't know. Like, I'm not one, I guess, like, I'm not in a position to diagnose, but it was definitely disordered eating habits for sure. Uh, you know, would try to do the appropriate things of like working more calories than I was consuming to lose weight, but at the same time, I took it to kind of like a whole nother level. And I think, I don't want to like jump, I guess, super far ahead, but that was like a start of control,
Mhm.
like I wanted to control what was going in. I wanted to control the energy I was expending like out. And it was a start of control, but it was also the start of this narrative that I'm not enough and I need to be better and I need to be more and I need to work harder. And that message was kind of reinforced by the success I was getting,
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
I started losing weight. People start saying to me, "Hey, you look really great. Congratulations on losing the weight. Like, awesome job." It's just all this like positive reinforcement for this kind of negative self-talk in my head, which then kind of, perpetuated it. I wanted to like keep that voice, and I did
Mhm.
for like other aspects of life too, was like school, I had the same thing. Like, you need to be smarter, you need to do better. If I got like a B and like four A's, it would be like thinking about the B that I like messed up on and how I need to like fix that. So like positive self-talk, celebrating wins, that was not kind of like in the story for me. And honestly, like my parents would continue to be like, no, this is really great. Like, you are enough. You don't have to like beat yourself up. Like, I remember like, talks about like struggle with contentment. Like, I had a hard time with the idea of being like content with like who I was and what I was. Like, I always wanted to chase something. And I thought if I stopped chasing something, like I was gonna fall behind, or I was gonna lose or gain that weight back, or I was gonna, start like letting my grades landslide. I think again that was like in a little bit of the control side of it again too. But yeah, that narrative kind of like carried through for me through college, um, through grad school, and even until starting to work with pararescue with, like meeting guys like Xander. There'd be guys that I would like joke around with. that like that narrative, it was kind of like funny, like you would talk about like, oh, like, self-hate and like sending self-hate memes and like how it related to like the gym and whatnot. And um I still like there's one one PJ who still just like send me like these memes and stuff. And I mean it's all like, it's probably not like good for like reinforcing, but at the same time it felt like a cathartic thing, I think. So all I had to say, it was like I recognized it and I knew it by that point. Like, even like the music I would listen to and everything, it felt like I could control the demons that were in
Mhm.
the gym with me. And I would use them, I thought, like in this fitness journey at least, I would use them in a way that, like, right before maxing out, I would think about a huge regret and it would like fire me up and I would yell and I would, lift up, the weight and come back down, like just like freaking out the whole time. I think Xander and, our other friend Tony would see it like spiking belts and stuff, but then like
Mhm.
smile and then kind of be back to like, a happy person. But
Y
that was something that I thought I could control when I left the gym. Like, I thought those demons were just there and they wouldn't
Mhm.
follow me, and I realized they do follow you. Um, there was a thing I was talking to with my wife recently about how I think 2 people can have a goal of lifting, say, 500 pounds, and one of them has this message of, "You're not good enough, you need to do better." And like, successfully lift a bar. Someone else might be like, I've trained for this. You know that you can do this. You're capable of this and be able to lift the bar too. One person is going to walk away feeling lighter and like calmer and happier and at peace. The other is going to leave feeling heaviness and an anger even after they both achieved the same goal. So that's
Yeah,
something.
that's an interesting
Yeah.
point. Yeah, that's an interesting point. Um, and I wanted to say this. I want to back you up just a little bit. Before I lose my train of thought, because I know for me personally, I love to work out, and there's a lot of talk about exercise and mental health, and I think it's great. You need to do it, but I know for me, when I work out, when I leave the gym, just to that story you just shared, I'm more amped up when I
Yeah,
leave,
yeah.
and like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
car ride from the gym to the house is I'm the most on edge.
Yeah.
Regardless of the type of workout I had, I'm pissed off. That's like it doesn't, like you just said, it doesn't just stop as soon as you finish the workout. It kind of fall, at least for me, it follows me,
Follows you after. Yeah.
for the
Sure.
car
Yeah, yeah,
ride.
yeah.
But
Totally. I mean,
so
I think that's like probably, you know, I don't think uncommon either, like especially we both listen to metal music. Like um
yeah, yeah.
the pre-workouts and stuff that get the caffeine going and juices
Hmm.
flowing in the morning. Um, but yeah, I think the mental aspect of it for me was something that I really needed to get a wrap on. And my
Hmm.
wife was the one that like kind of well, really it was a kind of a series of things, but I talked to a sports psychologist who I worked with. Her and I were friends, so she didn't want to go like deep into like, hey, let's talk about your childhood and whatnot. But she mentioned that, there's stuff in our childhood that might be creating this kind of like some kind of control issue, because that was kind of why I went to her. It was about like kind of like realizing that I had like some control tendencies in my life. And then I kind of like trace it back to basically the story I just told, where like I think being overweight kind of led to some of this stuff. And then that message, as I was just thinking about it too, I'm like, oh, you know what? That message that I have in my head probably isn't like, and these demons and stuff that I like intentionally bring around now because I view them as a performance enhancement, like that might not be the best thing either. So what my wife kind of like, called that out and she was just like, have you ever tried like basically like positive self-talk before working out? And honestly, me and my wife are both Christian. So, um, the thought of basically like if God made us in his image, then he made us, kind of enough. And if I have
Mhm.
this continued message that I'm beating in that like I suck, I'm terrible, like that's not really like the Christian mantra. I think sometimes it's actually viewed as like a humble message too, that like, I'm not like amping myself up. Or, saying that I'm like great or whatever. So instead, I'm just going to like beat the crap out of myself, and that people are going to be like, oh, look how humble he is. But I
Mhm.
think inside, really, just kind of, you know, it's kind of a lie to yourself.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
we can kind of trick ourselves into thinking that we can utilize it, but really it bled out into like into my relationships, into
Mm.
my friendships, and I wasn't really aware of it. When me and my wife started dating, she kind of, again had that, what about positive psychology and whatnot? Because she kind of, again, like the same stuff all the other guys saw. The other guys thought it was cool. She was kind of scared of it, which kind of makes sense, spiking belts and whatnot. Um, but, um, I was, we had a conversation about it. And the next day I remember going in and I was like going to squat and I was like, all right, like, looking at the bar velocities and everything like looks like, okay, you can keep going up. And instead of being like, you suck, you need to like do more. It was like, all right, you're capable of this, like you're able to do this. This is gonna suck. Don't have any like question about that, but you're capable. And I remember like being able to do it and like feeling like, oh, all right, I don't need to like, have that negative, you know, self-talk demon with me at all times to actually still perform in the gym. And that's actually been, I think, something cool is the weight I think I was carrying for that like negative self-talk. Like all of my numbers started actually going up.
Hmm.
Like I started hitting more PRs because I think I was more like in a relaxed state in the other 20, whatever, 22 hours out of the day instead of being in this like amp state all the time or this like kind of negative state where I'm like battling my own demons or kind of like you were saying, like your mind being the battlefield that you're kind of fighting. Um, that I think I wasn't doing that anymore. And I was actually able to like, be at peace. So I found that to be, I don't think every guy, like, if you use Slipknot to get amped up in the gym, or if you, like, think about, some mean some mean thing that a girl said to you one time in 7th grade, like, if you need that to get amped up in the gym to hit a PR, then that's cool, but,
Yeah.
for me, that was something that has been really helpful.
I'm glad you shared that because a couple weeks ago I was at the gym and it's rare that I have it to myself, but that's when I like to work out the best. And I thought about it this way. I thought about, as men that are trying to work on themselves and be an asset, not liability, we really can't tap into our primal emotions. And I'm going to use anger as a good example because anger's gotten me in a lot of trouble in my life. I've struggled
Rich
with it. So I was looking at the gym as a way to
outlet.
kinda yeah, like an outlet, but also to kind of release it, but to your point, though, like I said before, it doesn't go away once the workout's over. So for me, I would probably benefit from reframing my mindset, how you're talking, and be more positive because I do when I train, I don't have a positive mindset. When I was a runner, I was a distance runner, I was always, like, beating myself up, "Don't be a bitch and
Yeah.
do this," and I
Yeah,
still
exactly.
kinda do I'm not as intense as I was just because, I need double replacement in my shoulder, so I can't lift like I really want to. So the workouts aren't as intense, but I'm blasting, Pantera and Wage
Yeah,
War
sure.
and all these bands.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
but
totally.
I oughta try that because for my clients, I never understood it because they come in and it's like, "Oh, I feel better. I worked out." And I'm always like, "This motherfucker cut me off."
Yeah.
That's all so, but
Yeah, yeah, right.
yeah.
Yeah, no, totally, man. Yeah, I think, it can be, healing for a lot of people and, like you said, an outlet to get your rage and emotions out.
Mhm,
I think I'm at a level now too where I'm thinking about, well, I've competed in some strongman competitions, more like novice. It's more so just to give me a goal to
mhm.
put into working out because for the longest time I just kind of was working out just to work out.
Yeah.
Um, and Um, their most recent so I got, like, a chance to go to a national competition, and the weights were all way heavier than I'd, like, ever lifted, you know? So, like, I really just wanted to, like, finish middle of the pack, and I was like, "If I can do that, like, I'll be happy." And I was able to do that, but the one lift that, like, really I was pretty intimidated by, it was a 720-pound yoke carry.
Mm,
And I remember thinking, like, one, it's kind of cool, like, the biblical correlation of, like, carrying the yoke and, like, God, you know, Jesus' yoke is light. And so that was like, you know, in my head, I'm like, this yoke is not light. This is, you know, freaking really heavy. So the one thing that started coming to mind was I would pray that God, it's your strength, not mine. And not like to think, you know, okay, if I just believe in Christ, he's going to lift this weight for
right.
me and magically I'm going to be able to do it. But just recognizing that like I don't have I'm not here without Jesus in
Mhm,
my mind. You know, like I'm not this person who's able to lift whatever amount of weight because of Anthony Blubello. Like I'm not able to do it because luckily, you know, we have like a sovereign God who's able to, who has been really gracious in my life, you know,
mhm,
and has given me these opportunities and whatnot. So that's something that it's more been a heart posture of surrender, even actually under like the bar, and
hmm,
that's been kind of the, you know, the opposite of how used to view it. You know, like I wanted as much control as possible, but my domain is so small, you know, like
mhm,
God's domain is infinite. So it's like if I rely on myself, like how far is that actually going to take me
mhm,
compared to if I rely on, you know, God or, you know, beyond myself, that's, you know, it's able to take me a lot further. That's something that I've been trying to reframe in my mind too. I think surrender is a really hard term for guys because
mhm,
we view it as like a weakness, you know, and especially when it comes to um, you know, military guys like that. There's, you know, no quit, like never quit.
mhm,
That's like, you know, a sign that we saw, or I saw in, you know, some of the places that I worked, or, you know, you hear like the movies Never Surrender. And
mhm,
those, I think, like in battle, you don't want to surrender. But when it comes to, that's what's such a weird thing, I think, to be a man and to be Christian is to like really be okay with this concept that like God is so much bigger and we are
mhm,
not to put ourselves like in a place as high as God,
mhm.
or compete against God. Um, yeah, I think that's just a hard thing to do. So that's been kind of a recent trajectory for me too, is to reframe everything I do around that, around kind of this sort of posture of surrender. Not to say again, like I just expect God is going to do all the work for me,
Right,
but in the hardship, recognizing that it's, you know, I need something beyond myself if I'm going to do these things that are harder than I can will myself to do, you know?
right. With your background in, like, strength sports and stuff, did you play, like, football or rugby or anything in high school that kinda furthered that
Yeah,
along?
kinda. Yeah. I mean, you know, like being overweight, I basically got into basketball to
Mhm,
like lose weight. So it was just for the cardio essentially.
mm.
I was terrible. I was really bad. Like no hand coordination. I really hope we have a baby on the way, and I really hope that this baby does not have my coordination and has my wife's coordination instead. But yeah, I played football in ninth grade, which was more to, you know, I loved watching the Eagles go birds, began being a Philadelphia guy. And so I played defensive end. And again, I was really bad at that too, but then just got heavy into the weight room. And by that point too, I'd had dialed in some of the nutrition, you know, blind spots. Like I was getting more protein, I was
Mhm,
getting more carbs. I was still like aiming to like, excuse me, lose weight, but I wasn't trying to, I wasn't like under eating anymore. So I was gaining muscle mass. And then I remember, you know, one of the teachers was like, hey, you should go out for football again. And I was like, all right. So I went out again in senior year. And I actually, senior year, I really loved it. And I was, you know, had more muscles. So I was able to like compete a little bit better. Still like definitely like my football IQ was terrible. But I love the camaraderie and like the feeling of pushing yourself further than you'd ever pushed yourself.
Mhm.
So in college, a professor, um, I forget how he brought it up. He saw me working out and I think was like, "Hey, we do strongman at my buddy's place if you ever want to join." And so, yeah, I joined them and we kind of fell in love with like picking up Atlas stones and
Nice.
all this other stuff just because it was again that feeling of competing and working at a level that like I wanted to push myself if I was just in the gym.
So when you were in high school, how did you know about like how did you know you needed more protein? How did you know not to eat as many carbs? Like where did you learn that? And I'm older than you, so I know when I was in school, we had bodybuilding magazines, but we didn't have we
Yeah.
didn't have the we didn't have the internet. So
Yeah, dude. I
I'm just
really I
curious how you knew that.
yeah, I don't think I didn't rely on the internet very much. Not that I remember. It was really my older brother was really big into bodybuilding.
Okay.
My dad was big into like lifting, like he was, he had the Flex magazines and
Nice.
stuff. Um, uh my cousin was kind of big into it. So I just kind of asked them and then whatever they told me, like I just kind of did that.
Okay.
Like I think my older brother was the one who said like tuna and wheat bread. Like,
Nice.
okay, that's it then. It's just tuna and wheat bread because, Joey said so. Um, so yeah, I think it was mostly just bro science.
Okay. That's cool. Well, it's cool that you had that those resources in your life
Yeah.
though. That's pretty
Yeah,
neat.
totally.
So
Totally.
when you got to college, was your love of fitness kind of what drove you to do you did exercise science, right?
I did. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I wanted to be a strength coach. I like
Oh,
wanted to
okay.
just do strength and conditioning. And that was my game plan going through college. It wasn't until my like later in my I guess school I think it was my junior year of college, or third year of college, whatever you want to call it. That one of the professors was like, "Hey, your grades are pretty good. I think you should do physical therapy." And I was kind of like, physical therapy is cool, but, I wanna make people, like, better. I wanna make them, like take someone who's, like, an athlete and then make them a better athlete, not take someone who's hurt and then get them to being able to compete again. But he basically was like, "Hey, it's, um, you learn more about the body basically doing PT, and, it'll be a stable job, it's gonna pay better," like, all these other reasons. And I remember more so, like, I looked later that week, I was like, "Okay, I'll think about it." And I looked into the Eagles, I think had a PT who also did like sport performance or something
Hmm,
else, or like ATC who was a PT too. So it was kind of like this idea of like, well, maybe I could do this at like a pro level or something one day.
hmm. That's cool.
So yeah, then I basically was like, all right, Doc Stevens, switched tracks and started doing the PT thing. I don't
Nice.
think I fully knew what I was getting myself into, to be honest with you. Like when I got to grad school, I remember learning about like the brain and like neurodevelopmental issues for infants and being like, this was not what I thought it was going to be. But
That's funny.
it's been good. It's been a really awesome, yeah, career.
So did you have to go to the because I know when I was in school, PT was a grad program. Did you have to go I guess I'm assuming you had to go the doctorate route, right?
Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah, I did a doctoral program at Arcadia University in Philadelphia. It's actually where me and my wife met. She's a PT as well.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, which is cool.
That is cool.
And yeah, from there I worked in Jersey in an outpatient ortho clinic. I was trying to do travel PT, but um, I just couldn't figure out like the contracts and whatnot. So that kind of didn't work out. Worked in Philly for a little bit, and then got a contract with working with special operations after that. And that's been like an amazing blend of strength and conditioning and PT. So I've been super thankful for that. That actually really kind of saved my career because at that point, I kind of just wanted to do. Um, basically I met a friend who said, "Hey, you just need to figure out like what do you need?" And I was like, "Well, I need money to pay back these stupid
Mhm.
student loans that I took out." And he's like, "All right, well then get a job that's going to pay really high and then, pay your student loans back. And that would have been like a home health or something,
Mm,
like something I
okay.
really would have hated probably.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, I was lucky enough the next week is when he had a friend who he was actually the strength coach of the Sharks who was in contracting. And so he basically was like, "Hey, I have a friend who, they have this government PT contract. Would you be interested in moving?" I was like, "Yeah, it'd be awesome." So, yeah, he ended up getting me into the special operations realm after that. And I really have tried not looking back ever
Yeah.
since.
Well,
Been in it for like 7 years now.
and I gotta say, man, like, from a fitness perspective, I mean, to me, that is probably the coolest job in fitness. I mean,
Totally.
I don't know about it. I don't know a lot about it, but I've seen the job postings over the years for, some of those, and to me, it just looks like that would be kinda the pinnacle of the fitness job if it were my idea of something. That just sounds like a really cool, especially to be in that kind of environment with people that are competitive and they're
Yeah,
serving their country and they're doing, high risk type missions and stuff like that. It sounds like a really cool
totally.
job.
Oh, absolutely, man. Yeah, it's super, super rewarding too because it's different getting like Jimmy back to playing football again. Like getting someone back to like you know, being downrange, like being a commander downrange is like, oh, that's cool. Like you in my mind, it's like I know I barely did anything in this thing because I was just guiding. Like a lot of these guys have this like you said, they have that like dog in them anyway that they're gonna push past injury and they'll get the mission done. But it's cool to be just part of the process, like to try to be facilitating healing so that they can do it pain free so that hopefully later down the line, they're not hobbling up the stairs. The longevity kind of mindset of it. So yeah, it's super cool. And honestly, you know, because it is, um, like a elite, level, I guess, service, they have the resources for the fancy gadgets and stuff that
Mhm.
like we can really get into the weeds on. And I love that stuff. Like I love auto regulation with like bar velocity and figuring out, VO2 max and the like heart rate zones based off of that to get the guys to be like super dialed in for their heart rate when they're training and whatnot. So that kind of stuff to me is really fascinating. Like it's kind of the um, like that expert level, I guess,
Mhm.
of care instead of just guessing or just, um, you know, kind of going based off of feel. Because if we did that, especially this group, they would just like crush themselves every day, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Like and that's what I think a lot of us do too, is that, like, if you just go based off of feel, and especially with the mentality that it sounds like me and you had in the gym, it's like, well, then we're just gonna drive ourselves into the ground
Mhm.
because you wanna leave feeling accomplished for that
Mhm.
day. So it's cool to, yeah, be part of something where we can really get into the weeds and really get into the nitty-gritty.
When you first got into that career, being a civilian, coming into a meat eater type environment, were you welcomed with, open arms, or was there a little bit of kind of tension because you weren't one of them? How can you kind of
Yeah.
frame that for us a little bit?
Honestly, dude, like I, one of the things I said leaving I was with one unit for 5 years, and the one take home it was in the pararescue community, and it's where I met Xander. But um, one of the things that like if I were to put it all into one word, it would be grace, because those guys like accepted me right away. They, were super humble. They were super thankful for like help. Um, so like out of, I've only had the experience working with, a couple special operations squadrons. I will say, yeah, the operators that I've worked with have all been extremely thankful and extremely appreciative. Made me feel really welcome, like right away. There's a story for Xander specifically. That well, I'll start with this one actually. When I first got there, I was super worried because it wasn't that kind of start, like, to answer your original question, but it wasn't like super negative. It was just that me and my contractor found ourselves in like a skiff, and that there was like like a sign on for like like secure information or whatever. Um, someone like didn't turn the light off, but the commander of the squadron walks in and he's just like, "Who the fuck are you guys? Get the fuck out!" And I was like, "Oh man!" So like me and my contractor like basically like got no, like super uncomfortable and just like
Yeah.
walked out of the room. And my contractor's like, "Dude, don't worry about it. We'll fix this." Um, but he like comes out smiling and he's like, "Oh, you're the new PT. I'm sorry, I didn't realize. Nice to meet you." So yeah, honestly, from there on, it was really good. They were all like super cool. And the Xander story, I think it was like year two, he comes in and he's got this helmet. And he
Oh,
like comes over
nice.
and he's like,
Nice.
"Hey man, I want to give you this." And I was just like, "Okay," you know. And inside of it, dude, like I flip it over and I'm like laughing. I flip it over and his beret falls out. He had like an old beret.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh dude, you left this in here." I'm thinking like, I guess this is where he stores his berets. But he was like, "No man, that's for you." And I was like, "Oh wow." And it was like a really, like I must like got like emotional during it,
Yeah.
man, because it was that like being, it was like, "You're one of us now." And I was like, that was such a cool moment to be accepted as a civilian. Cause I didn't do all the like terrible in-doc experiences, dude. And like, I don't at any point, like, working with these squadrons, like, I have a bunch of T-shirts and stuff from them, and I try just, like, wearing them into work because I don't want, like, people to get the idea that that's actually what I do or that's what I went through. Because I think that is, like, reserved for the guys that actually did it, and we all have the ability that we could have done it, but we have chosen not to. And I
Mhm.
think we're thankful that we have guys like that because, they're the ones who are willing to, miss Christmas and
Mhm.
be overseas and, for their families to kind of suffer. And those are the little, I haven't really seen a whole lot of combat related injuries in the groups that I've worked with. And thankfully for that, there's been like training deaths, which have been like rocked the communities that I've been a part of, but I haven't witnessed where like we lost someone who I really was like close to or knew.
Mhm.
But I will say the sacrifices that I see on a daily basis are like, again, missing big events in kids' lives, putting like their spouse in a position where they would need to, you know, be dealing with 4 kids while they're on a TDY or training. Um, so yeah, I mean, I've witnessed kind of the sacrifices, and for them to accept me into that community, it was really cool.
Yeah, that's badass. That's really cool they did that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Very cool.
yeah. I
Well,
mean, it's a
so in that go ahead, sorry.
oh, no, I was just gonna say, yeah, a testament to again, you've met Xander and that group of guys. So yeah, again,
Did
thankful
that
for.
did that ever make you kinda feel like you were missing out because you were there, but you weren't part of that, per se group because you didn't go through the training? Did it ever kind of spark a desire inside of you to say, "Hey, maybe I should go through selection. Maybe I should try to do this for a job." Did that ever
Dude, yeah,
come?
I mean, honestly, not really because of I mean, there's just some stuff where I'm like, there's no like the swimming and
Mhm.
whatnot. Like, there's no way I can barely swim now. So I'm like, to actually go through that. But honestly, too, like there is, I think, a different level of mentality for those guys where they will pass out like underwater in just to be a PJ or to be an operator.
Mhm.
That, like, I don't know if I'd love to be on here and say, like, I could totally do that, but I really don't think that I would be able to, like, continue to do what they do. I think, like, I would just freak out, And so, I definitely it's given me more of a respect for sure. Um, and, I think yeah, there's been, like, times where I've participated in, like, rucks or, pretty, like, heinous trainings and felt like, like it was a cool experience to be kinda in the mix. But I don't know if I could will myself the way that these guys do. Like, when I've seen it on a daily basis, I would love to say, "Yeah, I have what it takes to do that," but I think that's a really unique, set of people to be able to do that,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. Agree, agree.
Yeah.
So while you're in this role and you're in this community, I know God is a big part of your story, man. Do you ever find opportunities or do you find yourself maybe, spreading the gospel or talking about the Lord with people that may not really know him or
Sure.
seeking him? Does that ever pop up during your
Yeah,
job?
totally, man. Yeah, it's kinda cool, like, physical therapy, you catch people in vulnerable positions, you know? Like, no one wants to ask for help,
Hmm.
and let alone, like, not be physically capable, especially, again, like, just talking about the caliber of these kind of people. So, when they are down or when they're in pain, just, like, asking for help is a big deal. Um So it's kind of like, the barber type situation where like people, you can get vulnerable with people about like deeper things too. Um, and it's been really cool because I've talked to guys about faith who really don't have like they're atheists or they're like hard for like into like energy of the world or whatever, like more of like a Buddhist philosophy, I guess. um and it's actually kind of exposed to me, like, you know I'll bring up, why is Christianity like a hurdle, I guess, or like, what do you not like about Christianity? And they'll say, like, I don't like the hypocrisy, or if you claim that there's only one way of doing it, then you're claiming everyone else was wrong. And I just don't know if you can say that. So, like, I found myself in, you know, positions where I was learning, I think, about like, why do I believe what I believe in? Because they would say something and I'm like, yeah, I get where you're coming from. But, and it was kind of like growing, basically talking to people who actually had an opposite mentality that I did. Um, and I think that's kinda cool because if you're just surrounded by Christians all the time, it's easy just to, like, have, like, a rose-colored picture of what God looks like.
Hmm.
Um, but also too, yeah, there's been a lot, one guy who I think 2 one guy that was in my wedding who was basically like a shadow governor of, like, putting up decorations and just, like, super involved. He and I were in a Bible study at one of the units that I was at. And, he's been like a super great Christian brother that it just started from, a table conversation. So I've had kind of both ends of the spectrum, guys who really were against Christianity, who I learned about, like, and, I don't try to convert anyone on the table too. I'm not like, I don't know. For me, that's like kind of not the place to do it because I'm a
Hmm.
healthcare professional who's working to help them.
Hmm.
But I'll ask questions just to like get a better understanding. And then, for the guys that do believe it, it's a kind of a cool opportunity to see faith from their perspective, especially, how did your belief in God get you through NDOC, or how did it get you through this deployment? It kind of validates, or I shouldn't say validates, maybe like um continues to affirm, or make strengthen that belief that I have in God as well.
Yeah. Well, and one thing I really admire about you, man, and I really like about you is I'm in the South, and there's kind of a stereotypical, maybe even a stigma of what the Christian man looks like. And the dude in the gym doing the type of strongman stuff that you've done and that kind of stuff, you don't see that a lot in the Nashville area. It's more of the limp wristed, never drank a beer, never been punched in the face, kind of thou shall not do this, pointing the finger. And I think what's cool about you, man, is you're walking with the Lord, but you're the same guy that can pick up a truck. You know what I mean? And so you show, you embody masculinity, and you're strong as hell, but you also know that you're doing it through Christ. But I think you're setting a good example, especially in a community that is physical fitness based. I mean, let's just be honest, in special
Yeah.
operations, you're going to be at a high level of physical fitness. So I think that's cool that you're leading by example, not only as a Christian man, but also as a physical specimen. You know, you're showing the world like, hey, I have the discipline to take care of myself. I'm strong, but I'm also grounded in my faith. So I'm not one of these dudes that's never really done a whole lot and is basically talking down to folks because they don't go to a certain type of denomination
Yeah.
or they have a checkered past or what have you. So I that's really cool that you're in that kind of role, man. I
Yeah,
admire that.
thank you. Thank you for saying that, man. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think, now, I've joked with my wife about this, but like working out is definitely like, uh, it's like a requirement of the job.
Hmm.
Like I need to look a certain way. People won't listen to me if I were, 300 pounds and, like out of shape, like
Yeah.
people, especially in this community, like you are based off of, um, you know, your body is your resume,
Mhm,
like if you walk into the door and you look out of shape, like they're instantly going to be like, I'm not coming to that guy,
mhm,
but and there's been some guys who like never go to PT, but just because like I work out and they would see me in the gym, they would ask me about like, you know, PT stuff.
mm,
Honestly, Xander and I had a mutual friend and we got close because, like, I saw him back squatting 315, and at that time, I'm like, I didn't see any other, like, operators, like,
mhm.
squatting a whole lot. I think he actually might have had, like, 4 or 5, I forget, but I
Wow.
remember being like, "Nice, alright, there's a dude over here who's, like, legit," and I, like, went
Yeah,
over, we just started up a conversation, and we became really good friends, so,
nice.
um, that is, but again, yeah, PT wasn't always like he was careful on who he, like, went to,
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and that was the case for a bunch of people, so, um, yeah, I think it is a important part of the job, maybe to the point of, like, you know I think it actually can be a limitation for people at times because there are people who are, like, really knowledgeable. I met PTs who they don't look the part, but,
mhm,
like, they are, like, brilliant.
mhm.
But at the same time, in this community, it is what it is. It's one of those things that you just know that it's an important part, and, you know, I gotta do that. I gotta be
It yeah,
the there's actually, like, there's a sign back here, but one of the guys gave me this, poster. It has a shadow governor on it, and that was, like, basically we had, like, a gap in strength coach at the unit, and I was sending guys, like, um, a program basically on, like, the training apps to do downrange, and it's like it's not, like, in your contract, to, like, be programming for
mhm,
guys, but it was still like an injury prevention type thing in my mind. But anyway, it was more about like they saw it as like me going into the strength world and like giving them like really hard workouts that they like really enjoyed. So that was cool because a bunch of people hit PRs and like they're all
mhm.
sending me like, hey, hit this new, PR. And that again brought credibility for me. That
Yeah,
was like the first year. So
that's
that definitely
awesome.
helped going forward.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I appreciate you recognizing that.
Well, and it's interesting that you talk about how you feel the need to be in shape because of community you're around, and I know so my day job, I'm a personal trainer and I have a little studio. And I've always kind of had that same mindset that you just said. Like I need to look the part, even though I enjoy working out. And dude, I can't tell you how many quote unquote fitness professionals are in the Nashville area that don't look the part, that don't
Yeah,
they don't even have
sure.
degrees, man. They just have like the cereal box certification. And I
Yeah,
never understood that. And they're eating, fast food every day. And I know we're not supposed to judge as Christians, but I'm
sure,
judging them. I'm like,
sure,
dude, if I'm 46 and I'm
sure.
still trying to stay in shape and you're in your 20s, there's no excuse why you should be out of shape. But
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah. No, it's fair, especially if that is your profession. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
100%, dude.
yeah,
100%.
totally.
So let's talk about your Prometheus project. Like, can you get into that some? You know, with
Yeah, dude. Yeah, for sure. So same friend that I was just talking about who was squatting. Him and Xander were like good workout buddies. His name was Tony Goulart. He runs actually like a contracting company. This little shout out. Hopefully, yeah, if you have any contractors or guys in executive protection, yeah, send them his way.
nice,
He they kinda, like, gave me this nickname of Prometheus. They saw me, like, working out, and I was, like, one of those, like, shirts off, and I'm, like, working out, and I was in there probably it was just, like, us 3, and, like, one of them I forget even who said it at this point, but, like, one of them was joking that, like, "Bro, you look like Prometheus right before he, like, drinks the serum and, like, evaporates." And so, that became, like, kind of like the running joke. They would, like, write, Prometheus on record boards and stuff like
nice.
that, um but I thought the story of Prometheus was kind of cool because it's this Greek myth of, um, a Titan who goes against Zeus's back and gives man fire because he knows that it's gonna be beneficial for man. And, he's, like, punished by having, a, giant eagle, like, eat his liver out every single
Wow,
day. And, eventually Hercules, like, comes and kills the eagle and then rescues him, and, but it was kind of this I thought it was cool because those, that I've worked with, no sacrifice, like, they willingly put themselves into sacrifice. Um, and it's, the military guys, I think even police officers, firefighters, like, there's a degree of, sacrifice in the tactical athlete population. So, like, in my mind, in the myth, the, Prometheus character knew that there would be a consequence to his actions, but he did it anyway because it was for the greater good of society. He was, punished for it, and then he needed someone else to, like, save him, and I think that's kind of a cool thing too, is that the operators that I work with, at times, they'll be, vulnerable, they'll be in pain, and they need, someone to help direct their program, direct, their training, give them, rehab exercises. So then that's I think kind of like this idea of, like the logo is basically like two hands kind of like reaching for each other because I think it's a relationship that like I need for freedom. We all need guys like these people who are willing to sacrifice. And then I'm in a position where I can deliver, exercises and interventions to help decrease pain when they are also in need.
mhm,
So that's kind of like the gist of the name, the theme, the brand, how it started is basically trying to help um, the tactical athlete have a program that works for them that hopefully can, get them out of pain or keep them in the fight. I've seen some trends from, just watching these guys train that have helped me kind of fine tune what is, um, the best warm ups, the best, leg days, like these kind of just trends that I've seen to get guys the results that they're looking for, but also not, destroy them. So my hope is to release kind of like a training calendar because I
mm,
found that there is kind of a natural flow in tactical, at least for the military population, of like, this Christmas season or winter season. It's the holidays. You have your Thanksgiving break, the Christmas break, January 1st. Like it ends up being this like extended period of like oscillating training
mhm,
because of family time and whatnot. So like during that kind of period of time on the calendar, it's basically kind of like hotel workouts, workouts, body weight workouts, stuff that like isn't like super intense, like because you're not trying to push the needle. I don't think during this time because the training's too inconsistent. And then kind of spring, you're getting back into it. so that, you might be able to push the needle a little bit. Summers tend to be more outdoors activities, more like summer breaks. Again, training gets kind of inconsistent, but now you can get some cardio in. So that might be like more of a cardio block. And then the fall is kind of like pushing the strength boundary, just ready to wait inside again and eat a bunch of carbs and fat and
Nice.
all the good stuff that comes with the holidays. But that's kind of like the natural rhythm that hopefully I'm trying to build. Well, my goal is to build kind of a calendar that guys can just purchase these programs on Train Heroic on the marketplace, and then just have the programs for indefinitely. And then if they want more programs, they can come get purchase more or whatever. My goal honestly isn't to make, like, money off of this one. This one's trying to be like, my goal is really just to kinda get the knowledge out that, like, I've seen that I want people to be able to train without pain, to train, for longevity, to train to, still reach their goals at 38 or 40 or 45 or whatever, 50. Like, I want people to, like, you know, continue to feel like, "Oh, I am capable," and I've seen it, like, seeing people still hit, like, their, max potential at, like, later ages because they're just training smarter,
Hmm.
So, and I'm sure, like, as a personal trainer, you see that all the time, like, people who, um, you know, if it's not even that, like, you're training, like, you know, in stupid ways or whatever, it's just you can be optimized more,
Hmm.
And so that's kind of what I'm trying to get across for guys, luckily we have a job. Me and my wife have pretty steady jobs that we don't have to like rely on, selling programs and
Hmm.
whatnot. But so that's where it becomes more of a hope of like just trying to give back into the community a little bit. Um, we'll see. My goal is to get them released by this year, and just so if anyone is interested, just follow the Prometheus page, and I'll be kind of continuing to leak stuff out as far as this program is done and ready for purchase. My game plan is also to have kind of like discount codes and just make a bunch of them kind of free just so that people can get a taste of, what the programs are, and if they wanna keep buying them, then that would be great, but, if not, then, then they'll have a program hopefully to take them through the winter or the spring or whatever.
You need to do a t-shirt collaboration with your boy.
I know. Yeah.
Get the name out, dude.
Yeah, totally.
Have you thought about program design for, say the younger generation that is interested in that type of job field? Because I know like in the
Yeah.
SEAL community, there are a lot of programs out there to get you ready for buds. Well, not just SEAL, I mean, also SF and all that. Have you thought about kind of looking at that crowd?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, I knew some guys in the schoolhouse for, the PJ community, so I do have a 3-month program, for anyone who's interested. I already made that and kind of have been
Okay,
distributing it. So if, you have any guys that are interested or, if guys are interested, just hit me up and I'll email that over to you for
nice.
nothing. That's just a hope of, like you said, trying to get people smart training so that they can get into, you know, this community that is, again, so selfless. The caveat to that is I am not a swimmer. So I wrote this program based off of what guys have told me.
Mm.
Underwaters and like, using crossovers, like these terms that again, like went into the pool sessions, but I have not done them. So I don't want anyone thinking that like I've done this program.
Yeah.
This one was based purely on theory for the pool side. The workout side, I've done more of those workouts, but yeah, I just don't want anyone to get it twisted that, I've done this program several
Yeah.
times.
No, and I think, man, like at least where I live and where I grew up, I didn't know a lot about PJs. I didn't hear a lot about them. And I know like in the social media space, podcast world, I still don't think you hear a lot about that job.
Yeah.
So it'd be cool to kind of, you're also kind of raising awareness by doing these programs that maybe the younger generation that, I mean, obviously, I mean, you could probably attest to this. I mean, the Air Force is probably one of the best branches to be in.
Oh, for
And
sure.
I was a Navy guy, so I'll say that.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be cool to see maybe more of a spotlight on that profession than maybe just everybody gravitating towards SEALs and
Yeah,
SF and stuff. But because I
totally.
you just don't hear a lot about. I mean, I've met some guys on podcasts that have talked about it, but even when I was in college and in high school, and I grew up in a military family, I didn't really know much about
Yeah.
PJs, man. I just didn't really know what all the job entailed, and I knew there was a
Yeah,
lot of medical stuff with it, but I didn't really understand what the job was per se.
totally. Yeah, and honestly, like, all the extrication stuff, the ropes skills, the, mountain rescue, like, a lot of it is super cool, and I think more people would be interested in it. I never heard of it either, like, growing up. It was never something that I'd heard of Navy SEALs, but, that was it.
Ev-
So
yeah, everybody's heard of them. Yeah, yeah. Well, as we're kind of wrapping up, man, I want to ask you: was there a point in your life where God became real to you? Did you have kind of a moment where you felt like, I know we talked about the gym and surrendering, but was there a moment where you were just going through a trial or a hardship and you just finally said, I really know that God is real and that he's there for me? Is there anything you'd like to
yeah.
share with that?
Yeah, man, that's awesome. When I was in ninth grade, I was running across the, it was like a main kinda like highway. It's like 95 essentially equivalent, And, one of basically, me and my friends all got kicked out of the mall for, like, them being, like, punks and driving or riding their bikes with, like, a soda can in their wheel to, like, make a bunch of noise. So we got kicked out, and, then we got kicked out of the mall parking lot. Well, I called my mom to, pick me up at the mall parking lot. So we start walking probably like 2 blocks. It wasn't really far, but my mom calls me from payphone, like, panicking. And so I'm like, "Oh, no, like, I'm gonna get in so much trouble." So I start, like, sprinting back to the mall, and I run across this street. Well, someone was turning like, it was I wasn't running across the kinda, like, the main highway. I was running across, like, where someone would pull kind of, like, off of it. And so I'm running across the street and, I like kind of do like a quick double take to see whether I can cross. I was running with a buddy. He's like, dude, chill out, like slow down. And I'm like, no, no, I'm going to get in trouble. So I like run across. And just as I'm doing that, another car like comes across and they were coming maybe at like 35 miles an hour. So I get hit by the car.
Mm.
My face smashes against a windshield. I had a cross on at the time and I went to church that day. That comes, I guess, like in a little bit, into the story in a little bit, but the cross kind of like left like a um like kind of like a burn, I guess,
Wow.
like across like my jawline. And then, I broke the windshield with my face, flipped in the air a couple times. My shoes went flying. My socks came off. My phone disappeared. I never found it.
Wow.
Um, I get up that, like, honestly, it was one of those weird, like, kind of like, I don't know if it was a near death experience, but I just saw like a forest. Like in that quick, brief second, I just saw like kind of like this forest and came to, and I like see a sock. So and I see my nose is just like pouring out blood. So I grab the sock, try to stop the bleeding. I see a shoe. I put the shoe on. I'm walking around. I have like one shoe on, one shoe off, and I'm like trying to stop this bleeding in my nose. And the guy pulls over and he basically asks me, like, yeah, he very, very nicely. He was like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I'm like, I need a ride to the mall. And he's like, "Okay." And I was like, "Can you give me a ride to the mall?" And he's like, yeah, get in." So I get into this guy's car. He does actually drive me back to the mall. And then, the cops came and, luckily I ended up being okay. But the moment that I really started to believe in that God was real was I looked at myself in the mirror and I had this chain. We went to like Saturday vigil mass or whatever, and I just remember like looking at my face and thinking like I probably shouldn't be here. Like I should not be alive right now, but like, for some reason, God, you have a plan for me in my life that I'm not dead, you know? And it was, I guess you could say like, yeah, it's whatever. Um, it was luck. It was, you know, I rolled with the hit, like whatever, from football. That was what the doctors were trying to say is like, yeah, you don't have any brain stuff. No like signs of concussion or anything, but it probably is just because you play football or, so like we can try to like rationalize it, but um really, yeah, I just felt like in my heart that like God had a reason for me to still be here on this world, and
Wow.
that he showed the mercy for me to not be like taken too soon. Cause again, like how fast that car hit me for me to like break the windshield with my head and
Yeah.
like walk away with literally like, a deviated septum. Like it was pretty insane. Um, so yeah, that was a moment that really got real, and then it's just kind of been continued validation in that throughout my life. Like different times where stuff was, like I was in a pretty, I don't say dark place, but I was pretty depressed state right before getting the job with the first um, military base I was with. Um, right before that, I was kind of I felt like I'd done all this work for schooling, but it just didn't feel like fulfilling, And then when I got to working with the PJ community, it was like, wow, this is such a cool experience. This is like it just kind of like brought, and I remember like sitting at this one um lake and just reflecting on it, like how God got me here. And it was actually that was kinda cool too, is I was at a student retreat for, a Catholic school, and I was, like, one of the speakers at it, and it was right before I got up to give my presentation about kind of my spiritual journey that I get this call about, like, confirming that I was gonna do this government contract,
Wow.
and I remember, because I said this, like, how I had my talk originally was like, "Hey, you might get, like, periods where things are kind of like you feel like you did all this work and you feel like it was kind of for nothing and you're unsatisfied, but God is still in it," And that was gonna be my message. But then it was like God gave me right before I went out there, like, and he will. Like, he will actually provide. He will give
Yeah.
you this, like, other, just like hang in there, do that through the endurance, and, he'll provide what you need. So it was a cool, like, you know, thing to be able to reflect on that he's met me in that like place time and time again. And I don't know why yet. I'll be honest with you. I haven't seen in my life where I'm like, oh, this is why like God kept me alive in ninth grade. But yeah, I don't know where maybe that's a question I'll know. Maybe it's one I'll never fully know. But just thankful for it.
That's incredible that at that age, after that accident, that you realized God's real and that it's not my time and I have
Yeah,
more to do here. That's pretty cool to hear that, man. And I think you're an inspiration and I know you're affecting lives in a positive way. So there is a reason you're still
appreciate this.
here. No, for sure, man. Even like our first conversation that we had online, I could tell, and people say this a lot, but I'll say it. You were on fire for Jesus. And I think we live in a world that's trying to push that out and trying to fill us with all this noise and this garbage and chaos. And so it's really cool to meet, another brother in Christ and somebody that's not afraid of their
Likewise.
faith and not afraid to
Yeah.
speak it. Cause that
And
ultimately, that's why, we're here to spread the gospel and you're doing that, man. That's awesome.
thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. And yeah, it's amazing what you're doing with this
Thank
podcast,
you.
man.
Thank you.
Looking forward to keep listening in and
Yeah.
yeah, being inspired on a weekly basis.
Thank you. I want to lighten up a little bit before we close.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a couple questions because you mentioned metal earlier.
Yeah.
What's your favorite metal band?
Dude, so recently I've actually I've gotten into like Christian metal.
Uh-huh.
Um, there's a band, I don't know actually know even how to say the name of the band. It's like Poieo. O or something. I'll
Okay.
have to send it to you.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, there's a, I made like a conjugate Christianity.
I saw that. Yeah. I saw that. Yeah.
Like a playlist on Spotify. So I'll
Oh,
have
it's
to
on
send that over
Spotify.
to you.
Okay. Yeah. I'll have to check
Yeah.
it out.
I'll
Nice.
have to send it over to you. But Brian Welsh, I've been listening to a lot too from Korn.
Yeah.
I like his like recent stuff. If we were to go based off of like, traditional metal though, um, I grew up like, with tons of Metallica. I was a big Megadeth fan. I saw Iron Maiden in concert like 4 times. Um, Pantera.
Yeah. That's my band. I love
I'm
Pantera.
into yeah, Deftones. I guess they're not really
Nice.
metal, but I do
Oh
yeah.
yeah. They're metal. They're metal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They got kind of the psychedelic parts at times,
I got a
but
funny Deftone story for you.
yeah,
Yeah, dude. So I'm a little bit older than you. I'm in my 40s. So back in I think it was 98 or 99, Ozfest came to Nashville. And
nice.
I worked at Best Buy, the whatever that store is considered. So I'm in work one day and I worked in the CD department and I see this group of guys walk in and I'm looking at them and this is like the old Nashville dude. So there wasn't people walking around with like the jink what are those jeans, the Jinko jeans or whatever, and the chains, like those
Yeah,
baggy
yeah, yeah,
jeans,
yeah,
like the
yeah.
new metal. So these guys walk in and I'm looking at them like, dude, that's Chino from the Deftones. And I ran over to him. I'm like, man, I was like, what's up? And they're like, hey, man, we need like a boom box. And it was like the most random thing. And nobody in the store knew who they were. And I was freaking out. And I got all their autographs. But they were super cool, man. Like, and it was back when I forgot the guitar player's name that died. Chi, right? Wasn't that his name?
Okay. Yeah, 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 yeah.
He was still alive. So it was a long time ago. But I've seen them
Got it.
probably 3 or 4 times. So yeah, I grew up on the Deftones, man. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
they were cool, man. They were off. Of course, I knew who the hell they were, but me. But they were super
Yeah,
friendly. They
that's
were
awesome.
cool.
That's awesome.
That's when White Pony. That's when White Pony was out. That album had
Oh,
just came
yeah.
out. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That's an
So
awesome album.
yeah. But I love metal too, man. It's hard sometimes as a Christian because you have to use discernment. But I'm into
Sure.
Christian metal too. But yeah,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you that because
Yeah,
I knew
totally,
you're into
man.
metal. And
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, what's your favorite body part to train?
Ooh, I actually really do love training
I
legs.
knew you were
Like,
gonna say that, dude.
I
I knew you
know.
were gonna
I
say
do. I
legs.
love, back squats specifically. Like,
Oh,
I don't know why, man. That's like the one thing that, at the bottom of a like, of the movement, it's one of those, uh, like, you have to get back up.
mm.
There's
Yeah,
like there's no getting out. So like for me, bench press was different because like, yeah, you're trapped under the bar, but it's like this like super embarrassing moment, like where you're like squirming or you have to like ditch the bar or like
yeah,
roll it down on your, hips and
yeah,
then like chuck it off. So like failing on a back squat for me was like, yeah, ditch the bar if you really have to, or you just stand up like you have
yeah,
to.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
um, back squat for me was always like, even if I failed, it didn't feel as embarrassing as bench press. And I think that actually psychologically has messed me up over the years where I don't like pushing into benching as much unless I have like a spotter.
yeah.
Um, but back squat and yeah, deadlifts for me too. I've, have kind of like longer levers, I guess, for deadlifting. Um, my least favorite, but I force myself to do it anyway, is Bulgarian split squats.
Yeah,
That's
those are
one where like I see it and I have to get myself into a certain mental spot because
mhm.
I'm like, this is going to make me want to throw up
Yeah.
and I'm going to do it anyway.
And you guys watching and listening right now, you need to go follow Anthony over on Instagram because you put out some cool workout tips and videos, and it's neat to see the content that you put out.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll try to keep that coming, man. There's
Yeah.
definitely, I mean, again, it's like, it's not really, at this point for like, I don't plan on it being a full-time thing in any way, but, hopefully I can, yeah, help people avoid some knee pain or
Hmm.
back pain or, I've gone through one knee surgery.
Mm.
It was actually from a leg press. I've been able, back
Really?
squatting for and deadlifting and doing all this other stupid stuff, but it was leg pressing too heavy that I actually tore my meniscus.
Dang.
I thought 900 pounds was cool, but I thought 1,000 pounds was going to be cooler.
Yeah.
So I had to throw that extra 100 pounds on and that ended up being, the end of the meniscus at rep
Wow.
7. So, yeah, learn the hard way, man, but,
Yeah.
after going through that, like, surgery, yeah, it just gave me kind of a greater appreciation for, how important it is to regulate, the training loads that you're doing, to
Mhm.
not crush yourself, to push yourself, but smart,
Yeah.
and not injure your body, so, yeah, try to keep that coming.
Do you have a favorite Bible verse or like a favorite motto that you'd like to share with the listeners?
Yeah, so um Corinthians, the all runners run.
Uh-huh.
That was something that, like, I used to, like, kinda recite a lot, and I do what was the other one? Uh, I'm totally blanking. It's still, basically kind of like d helped me, um oh, man, this is bad, man.
No, it's all good.
T
Take your time.
it's Colossians, but
Okay.
I'm totally blanking on the verse. Um, I had it, like, on a shirt for a while too. So that's why that makes it that much worse. But it was essentially like, if I work in a way to please the Lord,
Mm.
not man.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm blanking on the actual terminology, so I apologize,
No, it's okay.
uh,
I thought
but
you might choose Proverbs 27:17. Iron sharpens iron. That's what I was
yeah.
thinking you'd say.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for sure. That one has been, every Bible study group that I've been a part of has been kind of
Yeah,
like, that's been the motto. And I do believe that. I think that is, yeah, definitely true. For me though, it was that idea that if I'm gonna do it and I'm doing it for myself or someone else even, like, it's gonna fall short. If I do it to the Lord, like, he'll glorify it and he'll use it. So,
that's awesome.
yeah, trying to do that on a daily basis, man.
That's awesome, man. I'm gonna put you on the spot again. How do you feel about praying us out today?
Sure. Yeah, man.
Awesome.
You got it. Father God, thank you for this day. Thank you for this opportunity to speak on this podcast and just for the work that Steve continues to do to bring the word to men around the world who are trying to learn more about you, understand your will for them and their lives. Lord, so many are hurting today. So many are in a dark place and they need you. They need to see your light. They need to understand the pain that they're feeling. Um, we know, Lord, that you made the ultimate sacrifice for us. You sacrificed yourself. You came in flesh form to be a human sacrifice to show us how much you loved us. At times in our daily lives, Lord, we forget that. We forget the sacrifice that you made, and we want to make it about our life and our pain. I just pray, Lord, that you can have forgiveness for us in those moments, and that you can just gently lead us back to the love that you have shown for us. We thank you, Lord, for this conversation. We pray that it reaches people. I pray that this podcast continues to reach people around the world. And just thank you for your mercy to allow it to continue to reach who it has. Thank you, Lord. We praise you. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for tuning in to the Peace, Power, and Purpose podcast today. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and on Spotify. New episodes drop every week. Anthony, I appreciate you coming on today, man. It was really cool to hear your story, and thank you for continuing to spread awareness for mental health and also the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you having me.
Awesome, man. Take care, brother.